Right, well, believe it or not, this is Sunday now, because last night, sit down, Sunday now, because last night I wasn't happy with the result from this spool, these bearings, and even though I cleaned the bearings, I wasn't really getting any result because the spool was still spinning slowly. So I thought there must be something in there. So in the end, this morning, I decided to completely take both the drive side off and the palm plate side off the reel. There was some corrosion in there, what I talked about, only a very little bit, but on the palm plate, on the inside palm plate, was a load of grease. And if we have a look here, there's a little, it's kind of like a brass spacer. It's what the actual this end here of the spindle, it's what it actually runs against, like so. There was a lot of crud on there, and I needed to clean it off. And also where the spindle runs through the middle of the pinion gear inside the drive here, that the spindle was reasonably clean, but where the let's have a look now, through that bearing inside there, the spindle runs through the actual pinion gear. Okay, so you've got a small pinion gear and a large drive gear, which comes off the handle here on to one side. So through that pinion gear was all full of grease and muck and horrible. And so after cleaning that, I also removed the centralization, spool centralization cap here, and on the inside of that was a load of old grease and dirt. And so then I cleaned all of that up. And what I'm hoping for now is to have a spool that's actually running. The bearings have got the oil, the oil in, but I'll go through that process again. Yeah, so this is where I'm at the moment. I did put oil into the bearings last night. The bearings were nice and clean. I put the oil in, which was the TG Rocket Fuel, and it's now down to making sure that the spindle is clean, and what the spindle is if the spindle's rubbing up against through the pinion gear, that's all clean in there. The end caps all clean. Hopefully I'll have a spool which is running freely now, so we'll see now. I took the brake blocks out. I really want to worry about that too much, but the brake blocks won't run, they won't necessarily come into play until you actually cast it properly. You can't just spin it over your finger. It's not like a mag reel where you can spin it over your finger and it'll just, if you take all the mags off, you can do that and it just runs and runs and runs. It's a bit different from that. Okay, here we go. Let's put these fellas back in. One. Believe it or not, you can buy from specialist how can I say, custom builders or customization of reels. You can buy from specialists. You can replace these little screws here with thumb screws, so you can actually have the same as what you've got on this side. You can have the same on your palm plate side, so it gives you quicker access to the reel. Again, I would go and say, well, more like on a tournament reel, but you know, if you want that as an angler, you can buy all this stuff now from the custom builders. They can really turn reels into something else. But here we go. Right, let's put this back together. Got my oil and bearings. Let's see what we can get. Yeah, that's definitely freer. As best it's going to be. Yeah. So that's with the oil in. And squeeze. Yeah, there's one thing. There you go. Right. That's a lot freer than yesterday's effort. So it was obviously the muck inside the pinion gear that was causing the problem. Now, I will actually wash the bearings out and show you what it's like without oiling, and then hopefully this time I can show you the difference. Alright, let's pause the film for a moment. Try not to knock my coffee over. And this is the reality of it all. Sometimes you can spend hours messing around with your reels. So, last night I showed you removing the bearings out of this reel and cleaning them. So what I've done is I've cleaned them with the old brake cleaner again, and I put them back in with no oil in, and now you should see bit of envelope there. You should see the difference now, and it's got a bit of a rasping noise there. And see if I can do something. So the spool's freed off, and the brake block's back in there. Like I say, they don't really come into play until you do a proper cast, but that's without the oil in. Right, and now I'll put the oil back in and you'll see the spool spin much slower and quieter. Okay, so that'll be that one. Right, I have bought along, I've actually got one of my casting reels, bought one of my casting reels out of my bag from upstairs. I bought it down here, this is a 5000, this is an Abu, and it's been modified with a lot of things. So it was originally the palm plate and the drive side were from a 1990 6500 Black CT. Okay, you could buy it from the shops already with a conversion bowl ready to go. There was no level wind on it. It was for casting. Originally it was a brake block reel. It had spool centralisation on the left, on the palm plate, and on the drive side. Two sides of spool centralisation, so you can just get the end float right. And I used to tournament cast that back in the day, back in the early 90s, with one small fibre brake block, and we used to cast it with the end float just pinched up, and as the lead went out we just released the end float to give it a little bit more freedom for the lead to carry on at the end of the cast. Of course, at the end of the cast the lead's losing its energy, so it's starting to die as it's dropping towards the ground, and you want it to be as free as anything, to be able to pull more line off the spool. Anyway, all that side, I'm going to go into another day with some casting videos now. So since then the reel I've taken both the palm plate and the drive plate, and I bought myself, well, I actually got hold of a 5500 size Zeta one-piece frame, and also since then, since those days have gone by, I soon, well, way back in the noughties, a mate of mine converted it and put a monomag in there. It was a homemade conversion, and I've since replaced that with a custom conversion. So it's got a monomag. It's now been reduced from a 6.5 down to a 5.5. Of course, it's got a 5.5 spool in there. The spool is custom made. It's extremely light. So this reel is designed for casting the 100 gram and 125 gram leads. which is 0.25 diameter and 0.28 diameter mainline. And with 0.28 on there, it still holds over 300 yards, and that is literally even with the line level slightly below the lip of the spool. The custom spool, custom-made spool, was an experimental, and I was very grateful to receive that from a mate of mine. That's without the magnets. It's without the magnets. So the magnets are fully off. The spool is so lightweight, it helps the lead to carry at the end of the cast, just to get those extra meters that you need. You know, you're plugging away all day long, and you keep looking at the next cross line, and then you get that one cast, and you pip it. You get over the next cross line. It could be 3-4 meters in front, but all of a sudden you got over it, and then you're looking at the next cross line, and that's tournament casting. But that's something else. That's for other videos for me to make. But so this is my tournament reel, and for obvious reasons, and also there's a couple of other bits and pieces in there. There's a bullet, a speed bullet that goes in the end here because it's an ultracast system. That's a modified speed bullet, and the spindle is an extra hardened spindle, so there's no micro flexion when you hold the spool with your thumb. You're not bending that spindle a little bit. It all helps. Every little detail in tournament casting helps. So really, to see how fast it goes without any magnets, here we go. It does go for 3 minutes, but hang on. I want to do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do that. You can time this if you want it. I'll leave that there. And then you've got the fishing reel, because you want to be able to cast and cast without cracking off and bushing up. This, no chance. And the fishing reel has stopped, but the casting reel, it's still going. This will never, ever see salt water. The most water this will ever see is when it starts to rain, when you're on the casting court in the middle of a field, and that'd be fresh water. Okay, and even that's another story, because you try to keep your casting reels dry, because a wet casting reel does not cast as far as a dry casting reel. So it really is, you know, this is a different world, but this is the world we're in at the moment, the practical side of maintaining your fishing reels. So I'm going to put some oil in these bearings now, and then we'll see the difference. Just gonna pause the video for a bit. Right, so you won't see me, you should just see my hands. That's the bearing out of the drive side, that's the bearing off the left hand side of the spool. As you saw last night, how I removed them, I've already removed them just for speed, so to speak, to try and keep the film as short as possible. So I put a drop. Come on. Oh, you bugger. It's coming out the wrong bloody pain. What are you doing? Let's do that again. Come on, Mr. Oil. There he is. 1 drop of oil on there, and 1 drop of oil on there. Get a little bit down that side. There we go. What we do now, we'll wait for the oil. The oil should go through onto the towel. I know it's all in there then. Perhaps a little bit more. These bearings are quite big. That's it. Okay, oil's going through those. I'm going to pause the film now, and by the time the oil's gone through, by the time I start the film up again, I pop the bearings back in and spin the spool, and you see the difference. Okay. Right, here we go. Here we go. So we shall pop him back in here, like so. That's it. Done this a million times now for this video. Oh dear. Let's get this screw into position. Good. Gee. One done. Now we pop this one. Back together again. Brake blocks back in there. Okay, he goes back into here, and he goes back into here. Check the end float. So we've got the yellow oil in there now. A lot slower. Let's do it the other way. And smoother. Okay, right. So that's about that really. That kind of concludes this little film. I hope it kind of, you know, certainly people that, if you didn't know, you know now. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of beginners out there, and certainly when I started to cast, myself and my dad bought our first Millionaire multipliers back in the 80s, that was, we didn't really know much about tuning and cleaning bearings, and knew nothing about removing dust shields, which I still haven't shown you yet, but that's for another video. So yeah, but most importantly, always keep your reels clean, and take those plates off, and certainly take the drive plate off. Get inside round the cage, get where the rivets are going onto the foot of the reel, very important. And you'll have a reel that'll last you for a very long time. I did show you the other reel last night with the power handle. I'm going to actually strip that one apart, do the same as what I did on this, but this one is quite free, and that's got the oil in and 2 red brake blocks in there. But I will clean out the ends and the pinion on this one as well. There we go. Well, anyway, that'll do that. And until next time, thank you very much for watching. And all I can say is I can't wait to get back on the beach again. And hopefully on tomorrow we might know a little bit more about what's going on. Right here. Anyway, ciao for now.